Picture this: two traders with identical strategies, identical market knowledge, and identical entry points. After 1 year, Trader A has blown 3 accounts and is broke. Trader B has tripled their money and sleeps like a baby every night. What's the difference? It's not their strategy, it's not their timing, it's not even their win rate. The difference is something that 95% of traders completely mess up, and yet it's the single most important factor determining whether you'll make money or lose money in the markets. I'm talking about position sizing, but not the mathematical formula everyone teaches you. I'm talking about the psychology behind position sizing that either makes you wealthy or wipes you out. Because here's what nobody tells you. Position sizing isn't just about risk management, it's about psychological survival. Today, I'm going to show you why your current approach to position sizing is probably sabotaging your trading results, and more importantly, how to fix it using principles that work with your psychology instead of against it.
What's up, traders? Welcome back to Trading Psychology Trick, where we master the mental game that actually moves your account balance. If you're new here, this channel is all about understanding the psychological forces that separate consistently profitable traders from those who struggle. Today's video might be the most important one you'll ever watch, because we're diving deep into the psychological minefield of position sizing. This isn't your typical risk 2% per trade video that you've heard 1,000 times. We're going way deeper into the mental aspects that make position sizing either your greatest weapon or your worst enemy. I've spent years studying why traders with good strategies still fail, and it almost always comes down to position sizing psychology. They either size too big and blow up from emotional stress, or they size too small and quit from boredom and frustration. But here's the thing. When you understand the psychology behind proper position sizing, something magical happens. You start making decisions based on long-term wealth building instead of short-term thrills. You sleep better, you think clearer, and most importantly, your account grows consistently instead of going through those gut-wrenching boom-bust cycles. Before we dive into this psychological masterclass, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Why? Because understanding position sizing psychology is literally the difference between trading success and failure. And I want to make sure you don't miss any insights that could transform your trading forever.
Section 1. The psychology behind why traders fail at position sizing. Let me start by blowing your mind with a psychological truth that most traders never realize. Your brain is literally wired to get position sizing wrong. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective. For thousands of years, humans survived by taking big risks when opportunities presented themselves. See a mammoth? You better go all in because this might be your only chance to feed your tribe for weeks. Our ancestors who were too cautious starved, and our ancestors who were too aggressive got eaten. But here's the problem. Those same survival instincts that kept us alive in the wild are absolute account killers in the markets. When you see what looks like a sure thing set up, your ancient brain screams, "Go all in!" When you're on a winning streak, those same instincts tell you to strike while the iron is hot. This is why 95% of traders mess up position sizing. They're not making logical decisions based on long-term wealth building. They're making emotional decisions based on primitive survival programming. Let me give you some examples of how this plays out psychologically. The overconfidence trap. You hit a few winners in a row, and suddenly your brain floods with dopamine and confidence. You start thinking, "I've figured this out," and begin sizing positions bigger and bigger. This feels amazing until you hit that inevitable loser that wipes out weeks of gains. The revenge sizing spiral. You take a loss and your ego can't handle it. Your brain interprets this loss as a threat to your survival, so it demands immediate action to get even. You double your next position size to make back what you lost faster. This is emotional position sizing, and it's one of the fastest ways to destroy an account. The FOMO explosion. You see other traders making huge gains and your social comparison instincts kick in. Suddenly, your normal position sizes feel too small and too slow. You start sizing bigger not because the setups are better, but because you're psychologically desperate to keep up with others. The perfectionism paralysis. On the flip side, some traders get so scared of losing that they size positions ridiculously small. They risk 0.1% per trade instead of a reasonable 1 to 2%, then wonder why they're not making any meaningful progress. This is fear-based position sizing, and it's just as destructive as greed-based sizing. Here's what's really happening psychologically. Most traders are using position sizing to manage their emotions instead of using it to build wealth. They size big when they're excited and small when they're scared, which is exactly backwards from what actually works. The traders who succeed long-term understand something crucial. Position sizing isn't about maximizing individual trade profits, it's about maximizing psychological sustainability. It's about finding that sweet spot where you can think clearly, sleep well, and make rational decisions even when trades go against you.
Section 2. The psychological foundation of proper position sizing. Now, let's talk about what proper position sizing actually looks like from a psychological perspective. This goes way deeper than just mathematical formulas. We're talking about designing a position sizing approach that works with your brain instead of against it. Psychological principle number 1, the comfort zone sweet spot. The most important concept in position sizing psychology is finding your comfort zone sweet spot. This is the position size where you can think clearly and make rational decisions even when the trade is going against you. Most traders think bigger is always better, but that's psychologically naive. If your position size is causing you stress, anxiety, or sleep loss, it's too big, regardless of what any formula says you should risk. Why? Because stress makes you stupid. When you're psychologically uncomfortable with your position size, several things happen in your brain. Your prefrontal cortex, which handles logical decision-making, gets hijacked by your limbic system, which handles emotional responses. You start making fear-based or greed-based decisions instead of strategy-based decisions. I want you to think about position sizing like psychological load management. Every position you put on creates some level of mental stress, even if it's just subconscious. The key is keeping that total stress load at a level where you can still function optimally. Psychological principle number 2, the identity protection mechanism. Here's something most traders never consider. Your position size directly affects your trading identity and self-worth. When you risk too much on individual trades, you're not just risking money, you're risking a piece of your identity as a successful trader. Think about it. If you risk 10% of your account on a trade and it goes wrong, you don't just lose money, you lose a piece of your confidence, your self-image, and your emotional stability. This psychological damage often takes weeks or months to recover from, during which you'll probably make more poor decisions. But when you risk an appropriate amount, say 1 to 2% per trade, losses become just data points rather than emotional catastrophes. Your identity stays intact, your confidence remains stable, and you can move on to the next opportunity with a clear head. This is why proper position sizing is actually about identity protection. You're sizing positions small enough that no single trade can meaningfully damage your psychological well-being or your self-concept as a trader. Psychological principle number 3, the compound psychology effect. Most traders focus on maximizing individual trade profits. But the real psychological game is about maximizing compound consistency. This requires a complete mindset shift from home run thinking to base hit thinking. When you size positions for psychological sustainability rather than maximum individual profit, something beautiful happens over time. You develop what I call compound psychology, the mental state where you're more excited about long-term growth than short-term thrills. This psychological shift is huge because it changes how you view everything about trading. Instead of looking for the big score that will make you rich overnight, you start appreciating the beauty of consistent, sustainable growth that makes you wealthy over time. Psychological principle number 4, the stress performance curve. There's a well-established psychological principle called the Yerkes-Dodson law that shows the relationship between stress and performance.
A little bit of stress actually improves performance by keeping you alert and focused. But too much stress crushes performance by triggering fight or flight responses. Your position size directly controls where you fall on this stress performance curve. Size too small, and you won't have enough skin in the game to stay focused and disciplined. Size too big, and you'll be so stressed that you can't think clearly or execute your strategy properly. The goal is finding that psychological sweet spot where you have enough at risk to keep you engaged and disciplined, but not so much that stress interferes with your decision-making ability. And finally, psychological principle number 5, the emotional recovery timeline. Here's something nobody talks about. Different position sizes have different emotional recovery timelines after losses. This is crucial to understanding the psychology of sustainable trading. If you lose 1% of your account, you'll probably recover emotionally within a few hours or maybe a day. If you lose 5% of your account, it might take a week to feel normal again. If you lose 10% or more, you could be psychologically damaged for months. During these emotional recovery periods, you're not thinking clearly. You're either being too aggressive trying to make back losses or too conservative because you're scared of more pain. Either way, you're not executing your strategy optimally. This is why proper position sizing isn't just about protecting your account, it's about protecting your psychology so you can stay in the game mentally and emotionally over the long term.
Section 3. The Mathematical Psychology. Formulas that work with your brain. Now let's get into the actual numbers, but from a psychological perspective. Most position sizing education focuses purely on math, but I'm going to show you how to use math in service of psychology rather than fighting against it. The psychological risk formula. Most traders use the standard formula. Position size equals account size times risk percentage divided by distance to stop loss. But this completely ignores psychology. Here's the psychological version. Position size equals account size times comfort risk percentage times current psychological state times market volatility adjustment divided by distance to stop loss. Let me break this down. Comfort risk percentage. This isn't just 1% or 2% for everyone. It's the percentage you can lose without affecting your sleep, your mood, or your decision-making ability. For some traders, this might be 0.5%. For others, it could be 3%. The key is being honest about your psychological tolerance. Current psychological state. This is where it gets really sophisticated. Your psychological risk tolerance changes based on your current mental state. If you're feeling confident and clear-headed, you might use your full comfort risk percentage. If you're stressed, tired, or emotionally compromised, you should reduce your position sizes accordingly. The sleep test. Here's the simplest psychological position sizing test. If thinking about your open positions is affecting your sleep, they're too big. Period. End of discussion. Sleep is crucial for good decision-making, emotional regulation, and stress management. If your position sizes are interfering with sleep, you're sabotaging your trading performance in multiple ways. I recommend doing a sleep quality assessment every week. Rate your sleep quality from 1 to 10, then look at your position sizes during that period. You'll probably find a strong correlation between position size and sleep quality. The phone check method. Another great psychological test. How often are you checking your phone to see how your trades are doing? If you're checking obsessively throughout the day, your positions are probably too big for your psychological comfort level. Healthy position sizing allows you to check your trades a few times per day without anxiety. If you're checking every few minutes, your primitive brain is in fight or flight mode, which means you're not going to make good decisions. The percentage ladder system. Instead of using a fixed percentage for every trade, consider using a psychological percentage ladder based on your conviction and emotional state. High conviction plus calm emotional state equals 2% risk. Medium conviction plus normal emotional state equals 1.5% risk. Low conviction plus any emotional state equals 1% risk. Any conviction plus stressed emotional state equals 0.5% risk.
This system acknowledges that both your analysis quality and your psychological state affect your ability to handle risk. It's much more sophisticated than the always risk 2% approach that most traders use. The heat map approach. Create a psychological heat map of your comfort levels at different account drawdown levels. 0 to 5% drawdown, green zone, full position sizes. 5 to 10% drawdown, yellow zone, reduce position sizes by 25%. Orange zone, reduce position sizes by 50%. Red zone, minimum position sizes until recovery. This system automatically adjusts your risk as your psychological pressure increases, helping you avoid the common trap of revenge trading when you're down. The time-based psychology adjustment. Your psychological state changes throughout the day, week, and month. Consider adjusting position sizes based on when you're trading. Monday morning, smaller sizes, weekend gap uncertainty. Tuesday through Thursday, normal sizes, optimal psychological state. Friday afternoon, smaller sizes, weekend risk and fatigue. After losses, reduced sizes, emotional recovery period. After big wins, also reduced sizes, overconfidence risk. The correlation psychology factor. When you have multiple positions open, each additional position adds psychological stress, even if the individual risk is small. If you're holding 5 positions at 1% each, the psychological stress isn't 5%. It might feel like 7% or 8% due to correlation anxiety. Consider reducing individual position sizes when you're holding multiple positions, or limit the total number of positions you'll hold simultaneously based on your psychological capacity.
Section 4. The emotional states and position sizing. Now let's dive into one of the most advanced aspects of position sizing psychology, how your emotional state should influence your risk-taking decisions. This is where most traders completely fail because they treat position sizing like it's purely mechanical, when it's actually highly psychological. The emotional state assessment system. Before every trading session, you need to do an honest assessment of your current emotional and psychological state. I'm going to give you a framework for this that you can use immediately. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 in these categories. Confidence level. How confident are you feeling about your analysis and trading ability right now? If you're at 8 to 10, you can consider normal position sizes. If you're at 5 to 7, reduce sizes by 25%. If you're below 5, consider not trading or using minimum sizes. Stress level. How much non-trading stress are you carrying? Work problems, relationship issues, health concerns, all of this affects your trading psychology. High stress from other areas of life should result in smaller trading positions because your mental resources are already compromised. Energy level. Are you mentally sharp and alert, or are you tired and foggy? Your brain needs energy to make good decisions under pressure. If you're not operating at full mental capacity, reduce your position sizes accordingly. Emotional stability. Are you feeling balanced and in control, or are you dealing with strong emotions like anger, fear, or excitement? Strong emotions cloud judgment and should result in smaller position sizes or no trading at all. The winning streak psychology trap. Here's something crucial that most traders never learn. Winning streaks are actually psychologically dangerous when it comes to position sizing. Success breeds overconfidence, and overconfidence leads to position sizing mistakes that wipe out weeks or months of gains. When you're on a winning streak, your brain gets flooded with dopamine and confidence chemicals. You start feeling invincible, like you've figured out the markets. This is exactly when you need to be most careful about position sizing. I recommend implementing a winning streak protocol where you actually reduce position sizes after every 3 to 4 consecutive winners. This feels counterintuitive because you want to press your advantage, but psychologically, it's when you're most likely to make sizing mistakes. The goal isn't to minimize profits during good periods, it's to maximize the psychological sustainability of your success so you don't give it all back with one emotionally driven, oversized, undersized position. The losing streak recovery psychology. On the flip side, losing streaks create their own psychological challenges for position sizing. Most traders make one of two mistakes. They either size down so much that they can't recover meaningfully,
or they size up trying to get even quickly. Both approaches are psychologically destructive. Sizing too small during drawdowns prolongs the emotional pain and makes recovery feel impossible. Sizing too big turns drawdowns into account disasters. The psychologically optimal approach is to maintain consistent position sizes during losing streaks, with maybe a small reduction, 25% maximum, if the drawdown is affecting your emotional state. This keeps you engaged enough to recover at a reasonable pace while protecting you from making the drawdown worse. The revenge trading psychology. Let's talk about one of the biggest psychological position sizing killers, revenge trading. This happens when you take a loss and immediately want to make it back with a bigger position. Revenge trading is pure emotional position sizing, and it's driven by your ego's inability to accept being wrong. Your primitive brain interprets trading losses as threats to your survival and status, so it demands immediate action to restore your position. The psychological antidote to revenge trading is having a predetermined position sizing system that you follow regardless of recent results. When you feel the urge to size up after a loss, that's exactly when you should stick to your system most rigidly. The FOMO position sizing disease. Fear of missing out creates another type of emotional position sizing mistake. You see other traders posting big wins, or you see a setup that looks amazing, and you size your position based on how much you could make, rather than how much you should risk. FOMO position sizing is driven by social comparison and scarcity thinking. Your brain tricks you into believing that this opportunity is somehow different or special, and that normal risk management rules don't apply. The psychological cure for FOMO sizing is remembering that opportunities in the markets are infinite. There will always be another setup, another chance to make money. But there won't be another chance if you blow up your account chasing one special opportunity. The boredom factor. Here's a psychological position sizing challenge that nobody talks about: boredom. When your position sizes are appropriate for long-term success, individual trades might not feel exciting enough to keep you engaged. This psychological challenge leads many traders to size positions based on entertainment value rather than strategic value. They risk more than they should because they want to feel something when they trade. The solution is finding other sources of excitement and engagement in your trading. Focus on improving your system, tracking your psychological development, or studying new markets. Don't use position sizing as your source of trading entertainment. The pressure performance paradox. There's an interesting psychological paradox in position sizing. A little bit of pressure actually improves performance, but too much pressure destroys it. Finding the right amount of pressure is crucial for optimal trading psychology. If your positions are too small, you might not feel engaged enough to follow your system carefully. You might get sloppy with your analysis or execution because the stakes don't feel meaningful. If your positions are too big, the pressure becomes overwhelming and starts interfering with your decision-making ability. You might exit good trades too early or hold losing trades too long because you can't think clearly under pressure. The goal is finding that psychological sweet spot where you have enough pressure to stay sharp and disciplined, but not so much that it interferes with your ability to execute your strategy.
Section 5. Advanced Psychological Position Sizing Strategies. Now let's get into some advanced psychological position sizing strategies that can take your trading to the next level. These techniques are used by professional traders who understand that position sizing is more art than science when it comes to the psychological aspects. The psychological portfolio approach. Instead of thinking about individual trade position sizes, start thinking about your overall psychological portfolio. This means considering how all your open positions interact psychologically, not just financially. For example, if you're holding 3 positions that are all correlated to the same market sentiment, the psychological stress isn't just the sum of the individual positions. It's multiplied because they'll likely all move against you at the same time if you're wrong about the overall market direction. I recommend creating a psychological exposure limit where you limit not just your financial risk, but your mental risk. Maybe you decide never to have more than 5% of your account at risk psychologically, even if you could mathematically handle more. The confidence-based sizing system. This is one of my favorite advanced techniques. Instead of using fixed percentages, you adjust your position sizes based on your genuine confidence level in each trade setup. Here's how it works. Before entering any trade, rate your confidence from 1 to 10 based on how many of your criteria are met. how clear the setup is, and how it aligns with broader market conditions. Confidence 9 to 10, 2.5% risk. Confidence 7 to 8, 2% risk. Confidence 5 to 6, 1.5% risk. Confidence 3 to 4, 1% risk. Confidence 1 to 2, don't trade. This system acknowledges that not all setups are created equal, and your position size should reflect your actual conviction level rather than being arbitrarily fixed. The psychological scaling strategy. This technique involves starting with smaller position sizes and scaling up as trades move in your favor. This works with your psychology instead of against it because it reduces initial stress while allowing you to participate more heavily in winning trades. For example, you might start with a 1% position, then add another 0.5% when the trade moves 1-to-1 in your favor, and another 0.5% when it reaches 2-to-1. This way, your largest positions are in your best performing trades, which is both financially and psychologically optimal. The key is having predetermined scaling rules that you follow systematically, rather than scaling up based on emotions or gut feelings in the moment. The drawdown adjusted sizing model. This advanced technique adjusts your position sizes based on your current account drawdown model and your psychological state during that drawdown. During normal account conditions, 0 to 5% drawdown, you use standard position sizes. As drawdown increases, you gradually reduce position sizes to account for the increased psychological pressure you're under. But here's the sophisticated part. You also factor in how well you're handling the drawdown psychologically. If you're down 8% but feeling calm and in control, you might only reduce sizes by 25%. If you're down 5% but feeling stressed and emotional, you might reduce sizes by 50%. The time decay psychology model. Your psychological tolerance for risk changes throughout the trading day, week, and month. This model adjusts position sizes based on these natural psychological rhythms. Many traders are most psychologically sharp in the morning, so they might use full position sizes for morning trades. As the day progresses and mental fatigue sets in, they gradually reduce sizes. Friday trades might be smaller due to weekend risk anxiety. Monthly cycles matter too. If you've had a great month, you might reduce sizes toward month end to protect those gains psychologically. If you've had a tough month, you might also reduce sizes to avoid making things worse under pressure. The correlation stress multiplier. When you hold multiple positions, the psychological stress isn't additive, it's multiplicative, especially if the positions are correlated. This advanced technique factors in the psychological impact of position correlation. If you're holding 3 uncorrelated 1% positions, the psychological stress might feel like 3%. But if you're holding 3 highly correlated 1% positions, the psychological stress might feel like 4 or 5% because you know they'll likely all move together at the same time, if you're wrong about the overall market direction. The psychological recovery protocol. This is a systematic approach to position sizing after psychological trauma events, big losses, blown trades, or emotional mistakes. Instead of jumping back into normal position sizes, you follow a graduated recovery protocol. Week 1 after trauma, 25% of normal position sizes. Week 2, 50% of normal position sizes. Week 3, 75% of normal position sizes. Week 4, back to normal if psychological state is stable. This gives your psychology time to heal and rebuild confidence gradually, rather than risking further damage by jumping back into full-size positions before you're mentally ready. The volatility psychology adjustment. Market volatility doesn't just affect your financial risk, it affects your psychological risk too. High volatility markets create more stress even with the same dollar amounts at risk because the price action is more dramatic and unpredictable. This advanced model adjusts position sizes based on current market volatility compared to historical norms. During high volatility periods, you reduce sizes to maintain the same psychological comfort level. During low volatility periods, you might increase sizes slightly because the psychological stress is lower. The life context integration model. This is the most sophisticated psychological position sizing approach. It integrates your trading position sizes with everything else happening in your life that might affect your psychological state. High stress at work? Reduce trading position sizes. Relationship problems? Smaller positions. Health issues? Minimal risk. Big life changes coming up? Conservative sizing. The idea is that your trading exists within the context of your entire life, and your position sizing should account for your total psychological load, not just your trading-specific stress.
Section 6. building your personal psychological position sizing system. Now let's talk about how to build your own personal psychological position sizing system. This isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. It needs to be customized to your personality, risk tolerance, and psychological makeup. Step 1. Psychological self-assessment. The first step is getting brutally honest about your psychological profile as a trader. I want you to think about these questions and write down your answers. What's the largest loss you've ever taken, and how did it affect you emotionally? How long did it take you to recover psychologically? This tells you something about your psychological loss tolerance. What position size keeps you up at night? What size makes you check your phone obsessively? What size makes you feel sick to your stomach when the trade goes against you? These are all signs that you're exceeding your psychological risk capacity. When do you make your best trading decisions? When you're calm and relaxed, or when you're slightly nervous and engaged? This helps you understand your optimal psychological pressure level. How do winning streaks affect you? Do you get overconfident and start making mistakes? Do you get more disciplined? This determines how you should adjust sizing during good periods. How do losing streaks affect you? Do you shut down emotionally? Do you get aggressive and try to get even? This determines your drawdown sizing protocols. Step 2. Comfort zone calibration. Now we need to calibrate your actual comfort zone, not what you think it should be. This requires some honest experimentation. Start with very small position sizes, maybe 0.25% of your account. Take several trades at this size and notice how you feel. Are you engaged, bored, stressed, comfortable? Gradually increase position sizes until you start feeling psychological discomfort. This might be 0.5%, 1%, 2%, or whatever. Everyone is different. The key is finding that transition point where comfort turns into stress. Your optimal position size is probably about 25% below that discomfort threshold. This gives you a psychological safety buffer so you can think clearly even when trades go against you temporarily. Step 3. Emotional state integration. Develop a system for adjusting your baseline position size based on your current emotional and psychological state. This requires daily self-assessment before trading. Create a simple scoring system. Rate yourself 1 to 10 on confidence, stress, energy, and emotional stability. If your total score is above 32, average of 8, use full position sizes. If it's 24 to 32, reduce by 25%. If it's 16 to 24, reduce by 50%. Below 16, don't trade. This system ensures you're never risking more than you can psychologically handle based on your current state, rather than some theoretical ideal state. Step 4. Results-based calibration. Track not just your financial results, but your psychological results. After each trade, rate your psychological comfort level during the trade from 1 to 10. Over time, you'll start to see patterns. Maybe you perform best when your psychological comfort is around 7 to 8, engaged but not stressed. Maybe you make mistakes when it's below 5, too scared, or above 9, too comfortable. Use this data to fine-tune your position sizing. If you're consistently scoring below 6 on psychological comfort, your positions are probably too big. If you're consistently above 8, you might be able to size up slightly. Step 5. Drawdown psychology protocols. Develop specific rules for how your position sizing changes during drawdown periods. This is crucial because most traders make their worst position sizing mistakes when they're losing money. I recommend a tiered system. 0 to 5% drawdown, normal position sizes. 5 to 10% drawdown, reduce sizes by 25%. 10 to 15% drawdown, reduce sizes by 50%. 15% plus drawdown, minimum sizes. But also includes psychological overrides. If you're handling an 8% drawdown really well psychologically, maybe you only reduce by 10%. If a 3% drawdown is stressing you out, maybe you reduce by 50%. Step 6. Success psychology management. Develop rules for managing position sizing during winning periods.
This is just as important as drawdown management because success can be psychologically dangerous too. Consider implementing a success tax where you reduce position sizes by 10 to 20% after every 3 to 4 consecutive winners. This feels counterintuitive, but protects you from the overconfidence that destroys accounts. Also consider profit protection sizing, where you reduce positions as you approach new account highs. The psychological pressure of potentially giving back big gains can interfere with decision-making. Step 7. Life integration factors. Your position sizing system needs to account for what's happening in your life outside of trading. High stress in other areas should result in lower trading risk because your psychological resources are already stretched. Create a simple life stress assessment. Rate your stress from work, relationships, health, and finances from 1 to 10 each. If the total is above 25, consider reducing trading position sizes by 25 to 50% until life stress decreases. Step 8. Regular psychology reviews. Schedule monthly reviews of your position sizing psychology. Look at your trading journal and identify any patterns between position sizes, emotional states, and results. Ask yourself, when did I make my best decisions? When did I make my worst mistakes? How did position size contribute to these outcomes? What changes should I make to better align position sizing with optimal psychology? Your psychological risk tolerance changes over time as you gain experience and confidence, so your position sizing system should evolve too.
Section 7. Common psychological position sizing mistakes and how to avoid them. Let me finish by covering the most common psychological position sizing mistakes I see traders make, and more importantly, how to recognize and avoid them in your own trading. Mistake number 1, the mathematical fallacy. The biggest mistake is thinking position sizing is purely mathematical. Traders calculate they can afford to risk 2% per trade, so they always risk 2% regardless of their psychological state, market conditions, or conviction level. This ignores the psychological reality that your risk tolerance changes daily based on your emotional state, stress levels, and recent results. What you can handle mathematically and what you can handle psychologically are often very different things. The fix: always factor in your current psychological state when determining position size, not just mathematical capacity. Mistake number 2, the ego sizing trap. Many traders size positions to impress others or prove something to themselves rather than to build wealth optimally. They want to post big winners on social media or feel like serious traders with meaningful position sizes. This ego-driven approach leads to positions that are too big for psychological comfort, which leads to poor decision-making under pressure. The fix: size positions for psychological sustainability and long-term wealth building, not for social media or ego gratification. Mistake number 3, the one-size-fits-all error. Using the same position size for every trade regardless of conviction level, market conditions, or setup quality. This treats all opportunities as equal when they clearly aren't. High-conviction trades with multiple confirming factors deserve larger positions than low-conviction trades with marginal setups. The fix: develop a conviction-based sizing system that aligns position size with your actual confidence in each trade. Mistake number 4, the emotional swing error. Dramatically changing position sizes based on recent results, sizing way up after wins or way down after losses. This creates a boom-bust cycle that's psychologically exhausting and financially destructive. The fix: maintain consistent position sizing regardless of recent results, with only minor adjustments based on account equity changes. Remember, proper position sizing isn't about maximizing individual trade profits. It's about maximizing long-term psychological sustainability and wealth building. When you get the psychology right, the profits follow naturally.
Before I leave, here's what I want you to take away from this deep dive into position sizing psychology. Your position size determines not just your financial risk, but your psychological state, your decision-making quality, and ultimately your long-term trading success. Most traders fail not because they don't know what to do, but because they can't consistently do what they know is right. And the number one reason they can't execute consistently is because their position sizes are creating psychological stress that interferes with rational decision-making. When you master position sizing psychology, everything else becomes easier. You sleep better, think clearer, and make decisions based on logic rather than emotion. Your account grows steadily instead of going through boom-bust cycles. Most importantly, you develop the psychological sustainability to stay in the game long enough to build real wealth. If this psychological approach to position sizing resonates with you, smash that like button and subscribe to Trading Psychology Trick. Let's grow this channel together. We dive deep into the mental aspects of trading every single week because that's where the real edge exists in modern markets. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's the biggest position sizing mistake you've made? How did it affect you psychologically? What changes are you planning to make after watching this video? Next week, we're exploring the psychology of stop losses and why most traders set stops that are guaranteed to get hit. It's another crucial piece of the trading psychology puzzle that can transform your results. Remember, trading is 90% psychology and 10% strategy. Master your mind around position sizing and you'll have conquered one of the biggest psychological challenges in trading. Until next time, size your positions for psychological success, not just mathematical possibility.